So let's get into the story. We start off in medieval Japan, where our hero, Toyo, is fighting a war against a rival clan. Even though his side is losing, Toyo is a total beast on the battlefield, slicing through enemies like they're butter. He's so dedicated to his cause that he agrees to take on a suicide mission to buy time for his commander to escape. And get this, he jumps on a bunch of spears just to get close enough to shoot the enemy commander at point-blank range. Talk about fearless. Thanks to his heroics, the enemy forces retreat, and Toyo sets out to make his way back to his village. But here's where things get a little weird. Instead of ending up where he intended to go, he finds himself in a strange hallway. Toyo is lying on the ground after fighting his heart out in the war, when he sees this guy named Murasaki and tries to attack him. But before he can land a hit, Murasaki sends him flying through a portal to a completely different world. As if that's not crazy enough, he's rescued by two elf children who take him to an abandoned castle where he's treated for his injuries by an archer and a guy with an eye patch. And get this, that guy turns out to be none other than Oda Nobunaga, the famous warlord, who's been dead for centuries. The archer even claims to be the legendary samurai Nasu Yoichi, who in Toyo's world is long gone. As they're all trying to make sense of what's going on, this woman named Olminu is watching over them. She's part of an organization called the Octoberists, and her boss Abe wants to know why these warriors like Toyo keep getting sent to their world. They call them drifters. Later that night, Toyo wakes up to the smell of smoke coming from the elven village. And you know what? He's not just gonna sit there and twiddle his thumbs while the elves are in trouble. Oh no. He grabs his two partners and they race over there to lend a hand. On the way, Toyo manages to rescue the kids who saved his life earlier. But when they finally arrive, they find out that the elves are being tortured and killed for helping out the drifters. And let me tell you, that makes Toyo mad. Like, really mad. He starts laying waste to the enemy soldiers. And when he sees a local commander torturing the elves, well, let's just say he doesn't hold back. But instead of killing the guy, Toyo asks the villagers to finish him off themselves. And they're all too happy to oblige, if you catch my drift. Abe, the leader of the Octoberists, is watching all of this go down and starting to think that maybe the drifters are actually the good guys. Meanwhile, Murasaki is having his own problems. He's being confronted by this woman named Easy, who warns him that her puppets called Ends will always come out on top, and she's not just talking the talk. Abe is currently fighting off an army led by the Black King, who wants to destroy the world. The Black King's army closes in on Abe's castle. He knows he has to act fast to get his fellow drifters out of there. He heads to chat with Scipio and Hannibal, two legendary commanders from ancient times. But as they're making their escape, the Black King unleashes his forces and dragons start burning everything in sight. It's chaos, but Scipio and Hannibal manage to get out alongside Abe. And if that weren't enough, they're joined by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Can you believe it? But they're not out of danger yet. The Black King's army is still hot on their tail, and they're being chased down as we speak. But at least they got a new ally in the form of a World War II pilot named Kano, who's decided to join their cause after witnessing the destruction caused by the Ends. Abe's taking the drifters to join up with Toyo and the other samurai, and maybe, just maybe, they can put an end to this madness. Toyo is trying to make sense of this world and the people in it, and he catches Olminu, who is working for a group called the Octoberists. She tells him about the drifters, some of whom are good and some of whom are bad. The bad ones are called the Ends, and they're trying to end the world. Toyo, Oda, and Nasu want to defeat the Ends, but they need an army. Oda's plan is to conquer the country and use its army to fight the Ends. Olminu doesn't like the idea, but she knows it's the only way. Toyo convinces the elves to join their cause, even though they're scared to stand up against humans. The elves agree, and Nasu trains them to shoot arrows for the next 3 days. As Oda and the elves prepare for the next phase of their plan, they are suddenly attacked by Joan of Arc and a giant knight. Toyo's castle is bombarded with fire, and the drifters must act quickly to defend themselves. Oda guides the elves in taking down the mounted knights, while Nasu faces off against the giant monster. It's a tough fight, but with their skills and teamwork, the drifters manage to hold their ground. As the battle rages on, Lord Saint Germain realizes that negotiating with the drifters is his best option. He sends a messenger to the elves, offering a peace treaty. Toyo and Oda are initially suspicious, but they agree to meet with the Lord Saint Germain to hear what he has to say. Meanwhile, Oda is still intent on making guns, so he seeks out the help of the neighboring dwarves. With their expertise, they are able to create powerful firearms that will give the drifters a major advantage in battle. As the drifters continue their preparations, they also continue to liberate more elf women and gain support from other oppressed groups. But the looming threat of the Ends, the evil drifters who seek to destroy everything, is ever present. The drifters know that their fight is far from over, but they are determined to see it through to the end. Meanwhile, back at the battle, Toyo is able to fend off Joan's fires with the help of Alminu's stone walls. Grateful for her help, Toyo uses the walls to launch an attack on Joan. His speed catches Joan off guard, and he pushes her into a well. The water negates her power, and Toyo prepares to deliver the final blow. However, upon realizing that Joan is a woman, he decides to spare her life. The giant knight, on the other hand, is seemingly indestructible and survives even after Nasu shoots arrows into his eyes. Nasu is left in a precarious situation until Abe arrives with the rest of the drifters. Butch and Kid use their modern guns to destroy the knight, saving Nasu. After the battle, Oda learns that Abe is also a drifter and has been fighting against the Black King for years. Abe introduces the group to the other drifters and explains that Scipio had been lost in the forest, but eventually met up with Kano, who now rules over the Beastmen. As Scipio and Kano are getting to know each other, Butch and Kid show Oda their incredible Gatling gun. Oda is completely blown away by its power and knows that it can help them win the war. But Abe explains that they have no way to make the gunpowder. However, Oda surprises him by showing how he's already started the process of making powder using dead bodies and sulfur. He even has the plan to overthrow the Orte Empire and make Toyo the emperor so they can raise a powerful army to fight the Black King. That night, Toyo reveals his plan to liberate the dwarves, but at first, the elves are skeptical. However, they see his determination and decide to follow him. Meanwhile, Abe goes on a search to find Scipio and the other drifters. A few days later, Oda's forces attack the biggest armory in the Empire, using explosives to overpower the defenders and trap the armored knights. But they still need to take over the castle, where the dwarves are forced to make weapons day and night. Oda is wondering how they can enter the castle when Hannibal comes up with an idea to use Alminu's walls as stairs. Oda sends his plan to Alminu using a magical sphere, and within minutes, Toyo and his forces enter the castle. Toyo frees the dwarves and even provides them with food and rations, then offers the Orte soldiers a chance to leave the castle if they surrender. Nasu is surprised by Toyo's honorable tactics. After the soldiers surrender, Toyo keeps his word and allows them to leave, which surprises Nasu even more. As Toyo and his army help the dwarves, Abe's spies bring back some serious intel about the Black King's plans. This guy wants to wipe out the human race and start a new society of monsters and beasts. And with the power to heal wounds and create matter, he's pretty much unstoppable. But Toyo's not backing down, especially since he's just discovered the dwarves can replicate his muskets like it's no big deal. Turns out, these guys are skilled fighters too, and with their help, Toyo's army is suddenly looking a lot stronger. Lord Saint Germain, another drifter, joins their cause and even smuggles Toyo's men into the capital using his fancy carriages. It seems like everything's going to plan, but then this End named Rasputin shows up with some bad news. He opened the city gates for the Black King's army. Not great, but Toyo's not one to shy away from a fight. He's ready to take on whatever comes his way. So while Oda is arming his soldiers with newly made muskets, the Black King and his minions are plotting their next move. The king's ultimate goal is to wipe out the human race and create a society of beasts and monsters. He's got some pretty powerful abilities, like the power to heal wounds and create matter, which makes him a formidable foe. And if that's not bad enough, he's got Rasputin and Hijikata on his side, and they've been tasked with killing the drifters, no matter what it takes. Meanwhile, Oda is leading his soldiers into battle, firing volleys of bullets and arrows at the enemy forces. He's using some magical spheres to help him coordinate his troops, and things are going pretty well until Hijikata shows up. He's got some phantom soldiers that he uses to fight off Toyo, and his men are burning down the city. Oda is worried that they're going to lose the capital, and that a lot of innocent people will die. But Hannibal steps in with a plan. Oda needs to gather the enemy forces into groups and crush them. Oda catches on quickly and starts trapping them inside buildings, then blowing them up with his stockpile of explosives. Meanwhile, Toyo is getting on Hijikata's nerves with his careless attitude, and Hijikata is making some reckless moves as a result. Eventually, the Black King orders Hijikata to leave the city, but he's not too happy about it. Unfortunately for him, a dragon swoops in and takes him away before Toyo can get his hands on him. When the dust settles, Oda and his army have won the battle, but the Black King warns that this is just the beginning. The real battle is still to come. And that wraps up today's video. We'd love it if you like this video, and tell us in the comments what your favorite part of Drifters is. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.